Welcome, Canadians from coast to coast, to this special, highly anticipated news interview conference with physicist John Herbert Chapman. I'm your host, Bob Young of the ABC Late Night News. The Alouette 1 was the first ever Canadian-made satellite sent into space. Its purpose was to broaden radio communications in the north and to enhance our view through pictures of the ionosphere. This past September 29th, 1962, the Alouette 1 was launched 100 kilometers into orbit and began its study. This was huge because it put the Canadian Space Agency on the map. The Alouette 1 is estimated to have a lifespan of 1 year, but experts say that it can possibly last for over 10 years. This satellite can also take up to 1 million pictures for our studies. This far exceeds all expectations from the Canadian Space Agency. So today, it is my honor to represent John Chapman, the director for the construction of the Alouette 1.
Hey Bob, I'm so excited to be here. Today is just such a big day for the Canadian Space Agency. I'm just really glad to be part of it.
Great. Before we get into this, I just want to start by giving my personal congratulations on the successful building and launching of the Alouette 1.
Thank you, John. It was really, though, a team effort, and I owe a lot of credit to my crew, who worked very hard in making this mission possible.
Okay, so first, John, tell us some special things about the Alouette 1.
Well, Bob, as you know, the Alouette 1 is an artificial Earth satellite that weighs about 145 kilograms in weight. It was launched on September 29th at Vandenberg, AFB, USA. Its functions, as you explained, are to broaden radio communications for Canada and be able to study in depth the ionosphere.
But John, what exactly is the ionosphere?
Great question. The ionosphere is really just a layer of the Earth's atmosphere that is made up of solar and cosmic radiation. It is so critical to learn more about this because the ionosphere really plays a big, crucial role in heating and the cooling of the Earth.
Sounds like a pretty big deal. So John, can you explain more in depth about how broadening radio communication signals would be beneficial for the lives of Canadians?
Expanding communication among Canada was always a top priority here for us at CSA. You will now be able to transmit a phone call from BC to PEI. This is a really big step in developing communications. Also, it will prevent you from the use of mail. Also, the Alouette 1 has the capability of broadcasting a radio or TV show to a greater region or area.
This sounds amazing and all, but John, in all truthfulness, can you tell us if the satellite is the real deal or just fool's gold? Is the Alouette 1 going to accomplish all that it promises?
Bob, I give you my word as a member of the Canadian Space Agency and as a Canadian that this satellite is the real deal. It'll go down in history as one of the most accomplished satellites and will make many Canadians happy for a long time to come.
Sounds very promising, John. I would like to thank you for your time and effort to make Canada so great on the world stage. And as I'm going to open up the floor to the media for any questions that you may have for John Chapman, director of the Alouette 1 and space engineer.
Fire away.
There. Nick Genoa from the Toronto Sun. You started off by saying that this launch was very important to Canada on a world stage. Do you mind explaining yourself and telling why it is such an important launch?
Well, first off, as you know, Canada, this is the first satellite that is all Canadian made and to be launched. This is important because the only other nation is the USA and the USSR. To be known as one of the first countries to have artificial intelligence out in space exploring is very pleasing to know. We are all excited to see what the future holds for this satellite and for the CSA organization.
Yes, Mr. Chapman. Tom Goodwell of the Metro Press. I need to ask a question about the mission's origin. Where did the idea of the Alouette 1 satellite come from? Who oversees the mission?
The mission itself is controlled by the CSA, but most of the funds come from NASA. The idea for the satellite regarding the creation and function were formed by the Canadian Space Agency, but had to be passed by NASA in order to proceed with the launch.
And John, can you also explain why you think the mission will be a success? What factors will prevent the failure for the satellite?
Well, John, only time will tell, really. This satellite, like I mentioned before, has a 1-year lifespan, but if everything goes according to plan, it can last up to 10 years. The Alouette 1 has been able to send pictures, so if something drastic happens in space that we didn't plan for, the mission won't be an entire fail. Another key factor in preventing fail is we have two major organizations keeping an eye on it. Us, being the CSA, Canadian Space Agency, and NASA, will keep constant watch over the satellite, ensuring the best chance of success.
John, lastly, how can we in the Canadian population tell if the mission is going well?
Any news on the satellite will be broadcast through the news. Other than this, Canadians can tell the Alouette 1 is actually working by having better communications within Canada and stronger signals for your radio and TV broadcast.
Thanks. Your answers clarify a lot of things.
Anything to help.
John, Rob Gutterbuck for National Post. One quick question. How did you implement 1962 modern-day technology to enhance the satellite?
We owe a lot of our success to the technology of 1962. Transistors and solar cells were put into place to ensure the best success for the Alouette 1. These new found technologies helped in the creation of the satellite and hopefully the overall product. But for Canada, this is really the first time building a satellite that will be fully functional. So we don't expect that the satellites would be built without any trouble. Obviously, technologies helped us along the way.
Do you think this mission was too ambitious for the first ever mission of the CSA?
From day one, struggles were there. But, as mentioned previously, new technologies and NASA was always there to support us. There will always be benefits. There will always be beliefs that the CSA was, like you said, too ambitious. But with ambition comes success, But with ambition comes success, and with success you make history. And everyone here at the Canadian Space Agency, we're all about putting Canada in the history books.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman, for your time with us here. It's been a true honor to have you.
No thanks necessary, Bob. It's been a pleasure.
I've been Bob Young of the ABC Late Night News. For me and everyone else at the studio, good night.